One thing the world and the internet seems to be talking about at the moment is Kris Jenner's new face. I am fascinated by, and now I know it's not a new trend. I know that this is something that is like the tale as old as plastic surgery. This idea that we're seeing coming across in media at the moment where women are unveiling, celebrities are unveiling their new face. We saw it with Lindsay Lohan, we saw it with Anne Hathaway, and now I think Kris Jenner is peak unveiling. If you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure you have. Kris Jenner was in Paris recently and she's been attending Kim Kardashian's trial, and there's been a lot of photos that have come out of her where she looks literally 40. She's gone from looking like a very good 69-year-old woman to having some very extensive surgery, some very extensive procedures that have resulted in her face looking essentially like she's 40 years old, even younger potentially. She looks like she could be Kim Kardashian's sister, not Kim Kardashian's mother. Put it that way. And I guess this has become like the latest talking point in this ongoing debate that there is around aesthetic culture, around aging, and also around the beauty standards of the influencer age that we are in. I mean, there was a few parts of this that we wanted to talk about because we often have the internal debate here at Life Uncut around whether transparency when it comes to plastic surgery is a good thing. Like, do we demand that of celebrities that we look up to or that we aspire to be? Do we appreciate it when celebrities are honest about the surgeries, or at least honest about the fact that they've had surgery? Does it actually make a difference, or is it something that's really validating and being like, okay, well, we know that that wasn't a natural achievement or that it's come from enhancements?
I also would say that this isn't just to celebrities. And for some reason, I just feel as though whenever this comes up, I'm always the main one to talk about it when we talk about cosmetic injectables. We've received really, really mixed feedback. One hand, people will write into us and they will say, hey, I really appreciate that you're honest about it. Like, it makes me feel better hearing your experiences, particularly because I've kind of spoken about both sides. I've talked about needing to get my lip filler dissolved because it migrated and it wasn't, it just didn't look good. I had a bit of lip filler blindness at one point and they were too big. It's not a good time. It's also really expensive. So I've spoken about the negative sides of it. And then we've also got feedback from people saying, hey, you need to stop talking about this. Like, the way that you speak about it, you talk about it like it is so normal, and it's not normal. Yeah. And we've kind of unpacked that within ourselves, and I can absolutely see where those people are coming from. And so I kind of sit in this area where I can see where everyone gets their perspective. And I've thought about this and thought, okay, but what is my perspective on this? What do I want from either my friends, the people around me that I work with? What do I want from celebrities? Do I want them to outright tell me when they've had some type of enhancement, whether that be cosmetic injectables, whether that be surgery, whether that be, I don't know what other options there are on the market, but you get my point. Do I want them to only be honest about it if they're asked? Or do I want them to keep it completely private because that might impact me in a way where I think, oh, well, maybe that's what I need to get done as well. And I kind of, I'm actually not completely in one category. I think I personally skew more towards the transparency side, but I wanted to go into maybe why that is the case. So when it comes to Kris Jenner, she was asked so much about her surgery that one of her reps actually had to come out and confirm to Page Six and to People magazine that she had in fact had a particular doctor do her surgery. There were apparently all these other surgeons around Hollywood that were taking credit for Kris Jenner's new face. And so they came out and they said, we can confirm that Dr. Stephen Levine did Kris Jenner's recent work, but they did not actually disclose what she had done.
Can you imagine how much the business of that doctor, Dr. Stephen Levine, how much he would be blowing up on social media now? Because I think that that's like the biggest question. People want to know what they've had done, but they also want to know who did the work. That's the thing, right? Because not all plastic surgery is built the same. And I agree with you completely, Keeshia, when you talk about this seesaw between transparency and promotion. And that's where I kind of feel uncomfortable with it, because I'm like, yes, I want to know from a transparency perspective, but do I actually want to know? Because then I'm like, oh, maybe that's something I could do. Like, does it encourage me to also seek out this age-defying aspect of it? And I don't know where I sit. And Britt and I have had so many debates about this, because I think Britt has a slightly different take to me and doesn't think of it as the promotion as being necessarily negative. But I kind of worry about the way in which society is shifting. I mean, think about the Kardashians 10 years ago or 15 years ago. They would deny every single thing that they'd ever had done. Kylie Jenner denied every procedure she had done around her lips until one day she talked about having her lips dissolved. They have always said, no, 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 no. We never got a butt lift. We never got this. We never got that. It's simply this product I'm using or my waist training, whatever it was, like corset that she was hocking at one stage. But I think that the tides around plastic surgery have shifted. And I do think that we're seeing a lot more transparency from people who are having it done, from celebrities, from influencers. I'm just not sure whether it's had the desired result. I don't know whether the transparency has made me feel any better or whether it was just this bias that we kind of held onto for a really long time around wanting it.
When it comes to the transparency, the thing that I also question is like how transparent is helpful. Kris has admitted that she's had surgical procedures by this doctor, but they haven't actually broken down what she has had. So now there's all this speculation on the internet about what she may or may not have had done. There was a doctor on YouTube with 5.42 million followers called Dr. Young, and he said that he thinks her results are because of weight loss, likely from a weight loss medication. He thinks that she's had a lower facelift. He said that that treats jowls, lifts the lower face and neck to give the sharper jawline. He also said that she may have not overdone it with filler. So whether she's had that dissolved or whether it's kind of naturally degraded over time, he thinks she may have had a possible rhinoplasty. So that's a nose job. Her nose is a little bit of a different structure to what it was before. A possible eyebrow lift and possible eyelid removal. I find it interesting because in the past, she has actually come out and said, you know, I've had breast surgery, I've had breast augmentation, I've had that done a couple of times. She said that she's had Botox and filler. On an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians in 2018, they actually documented her getting earlobe surgery, which is particularly random. But I think it's interesting that she has been transparent about some things. And she's been transparent about having surgery, but not exactly what was done.
I guess the problem that I have with it, and maybe this is where I kind of come back to the whole debate around promotion versus transparency. And that is because the lack of information actually negates how serious these procedures are. And also the fact that for someone like the Kardashians or for people who work in Hollywood or celebrities, their face is also their moneymaker. It's a commodity. They need this as well. And I think that there was a really great Marie Claire article that summed this up perfectly. It said, for women whose entire brand revolves around maintaining image, not just their own, but also her family's, this is specifically about Kris Jenner, this glow up is business strategy as much as beauty philosophy, which raises a bigger question. Why are we still surprised when older women in the public eye refuse to age on anyone else's terms? With this, though, and this conversation, and the fact that you can talk about, oh, I had a facelift, but actually not showcase the enormous load that having a facelift has on a human. It is a major surgery. I think that we don't have that level of transparency yet. And yes, of course, you can go into plastic surgeon accounts on Instagram and you can see before and after photos. I'm sure we've all seen recovery photos from what a full facelift looks like. And it is fucking harrowing. Like, it is such a frightening thing to look at. But the more that we see the glorified before and afters, I think the less we think about the process that it takes to get there. We also forget about the real severe complications that can arise from a very elective, non-necessary surgery that we're having done because we're told that these beauty standards need to be upheld. And I would be lying if I didn't say that it in some ways affects me and that I don't mean affect, like I'm not traumatized by it by any means, but I mean, like, I see these things. I see someone like Kris Jenner looking fucking amazing post-surgery. And I go, God, maybe I'm going to have that when I'm 50 or 45 or 55. Like, I entertain the thoughts of it. I say it as jokes with my friends when we're all talking about it, we're out for dinner. But there's a part of me that also thinks, well, then this can become achievable and it can become attainable. And then I struggle with the internal battle around, well, what message does that send to my kids if I can't accept the way I look, but yet I'm telling them that they're beautiful enough? One thing, though, that I do think puts celebrities in a real rock and hard place is that we expect them to answer the questions that are asked of them. And if a celebrity has had plastic surgery, like for example, and I shouldn't say that she has for certain, we don't know, but a really good example of someone who denies ever doing anything is Paris Hilton. Recently, she was quoted in an interview saying, I am completely natural. I've never even had Botox. I just have a fantastic 10 skin step routine, which seems unfathomable. It really does.
Yeah, because her eyebrows don't move when she says it.
In the interview, if you watch the video, her face is paralyzed, like absolutely paralyzed.
It's giving when JLo was like, I just have a lot of olive oil and my skincare routine. I'm like, babe, we're not blind. We're also not stupid. Come on.
But also, I kind of feel for them in some way because I'm like, well, you've been asked a question. You don't owe anyone the autonomy over knowing whatever it is that you want to do to your body. But because you are a celebrity and you're in the media, then there is an expectation for that.
We wanted to get your take on this. And so we put up some polls on Instagram, and these have, as at the time of recording, there are nearly 10,000 votes on these polls. One of the questions we asked was, do you think celebrities should be honest about getting plastic surgery? And 74% of people said, yes, I prefer the truth. We then asked, is it more harmful to deny cosmetic work or promote it like it's no big deal? 36% of people said denial is worse. Only 4% of people said promoting it casually is worse. But 60% of people said both can be equally damaging. And this last question that we asked is where I think my perspective changes. I think privacy is acceptable. If people don't want to talk about it, I do find it a little bit harmful if they are in the denial space. But I particularly have an issue with it if they are monetizing or they are profiting off of the claim that that is something that is natural. And like, for example, what I mean is that if someone has had liposuction or if they've had a BBL, but they're selling fitness programs or nutrition programs to look the way that they look, that's where I really draw the line. Like if you've had a facelift and you're selling to a customer that you got that look by using a serum, I find it particularly misleading. I find it like you're really taking advantage of a customer in that way. If you have had a BBL and you're selling a squat program to do at the gym, like that's bullshit. To me, I'm just like, stop taking advantage of people with the fact that they don't know what you have done to attain it. I don't care that you've had surgery. I personally don't have a problem with it, and I don't have a problem with you talking about it. I do have a problem with you manipulating people's perception of what you had to do to get that.
Yeah, there's a great quote from Jamila Jamil that I came across, which says, and she obviously has very staunch beliefs in this space. And she wrote, 95% of celebrities and influencers are complicit in the assault on women by not saying anything about it, by not calling out the use of Photoshop, and actually by perpetuating the narrative that looks are the most important thing by only ever talking about looks. And having surgeries without admitting it, you are committing a crime against your gender. Is that a little bit extreme? Potentially. But I do think it plays into this idea that without having the knowledge, especially when so many of these celebrities have commercial brands that are based around the way they look. You know, we made the reference of Kim Kardashian having weight trainers. She also had appetite suppressing lollipops there for one point in time. And it's like, it's quite contradictory to have someone selling a product that is supposed to improve or enhance your looks when we know that so many of these celebrities' looks are enhanced by cosmetic surgery. But I guess the thing with Kris Jenner, and I know that she's a bit of an outlying case because the transformation was so dramatic. Normally we see subtle enhancements, like for example, JLo or Anne Hathaway, and we're trying to speculate as to whether surgery has taken place. And there's a lot of back and forth around media. There's, like you said, TikTok doctors who are all over it trying to figure out exactly what has been done. Is it non-surgical or is it surgical? Is it lasers? Is it filler? Like there's so much speculation that surrounds these things. Whereas in Kris Jenner's case, the transformation was so unbelievably fucking dramatic. Even if she wanted to, there's no way that she can chop that up to coconut water. You just can't, you know? So I don't think that she was in a place or would have ever had the opportunity to deny having the surgery that she's had. But like I said, you know, and I think going back to this idea of transparency, I think it's caveated by the fact that it's not actually transparent. We know surgery has taken place, but we don't know how much. Also, we know that the posts that she's posting on her social media, on Instagram, are highly photoshopped. So you only see this beautification of the surgery. You don't actually see the implications of it, which is the thing that I kind of have an issue with. I wish we saw more of the process. I'm like, if you're going to be transparent, show me the recovery, show me the drainage. Like I want to see, I don't want my Instagram feed to get fucked up again, but like I want to see I want to see that side of it, because I think that that would deter me. And maybe it would deter a greater population of people who feel this pressure to continue to look a certain way, especially as we start to slowly age. And I guess the thing is, celebrities are damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. I mean, I think of people like Sarah Jessica Parker, who was criticized and the media could not stop talking about her aging face when they did the reboot of Sex and the City. So on one side, it doesn't matter whether you age gracefully or seemingly not gracefully. You're going to be spoken about if you're a woman who works in this industry. So if you're making your money from the way that you look, I understand why there is this pressure to go down the route of surgery. But it is becoming more commonplace for people who are not working in media and who are not celebrities to start opting into surgeries as well.
We've often spoken about behind closed doors that I think you can be the victim of something whilst also contributing to the issues that that thing causes. And this is particularly relevant for women in media and beauty standards. And what I mean by it is that all of us are we're all under this pressure to not age. We're all victims of the beauty standards that are enforced on us. But by getting things like cosmetic injectables, by getting things like surgeries, are we not then further perpetuating the beauty standards that other women have to look up to? And I think that it's quite hard to actually separate those. Like, are the Kardashians adding to the beauty pressure that we all feel to look a certain way? Or are they just victims of what the world has expected from them? And, you know, like you just said in the reboot of Sex and the City and just like that, these women were on our screens when they were younger. And so when they came back, I think they were under a lot of pressure to look how they did before. But then the world criticized them because they looked like they had made effort to look like they did before. However, I am curious about where the line between transparency and over-promotion actually lies, because I think within myself I have found it. And you guys might remember about on the 7th of March it was, Meghan Trainor posted on Instagram that she had done a collaboration with a breast implant company. Now she tagged them, it was paid promotion in the top of it, and she spoke about, you know, wanting a new change for her and that she wanted to go with a natural look, and so she used this particular brand of implant. And she ended up performing a song, you know her song All About That Bass, where the lyrics are, yeah, it's pretty clear, I ain't no size 2. Well, 2 weeks ago, she was performing it in Huntington Beach, and she changed the lyrics of the song to, yeah, it's pretty clear, I got some new boobs. So on one hand, I think we have transparency of saying, yes, I actually have had surgery. And I myself find that quite helpful, because I think it demystifies that this has been a natural thing, that they just happen to look like that. And maybe if I did the same things that they do, I could look like her too. But I do wonder whether an outright promotion of it in something like a paid collaboration really raises issues with the fact that if you're a brand partner with something like a breast augmentation company, you're not able to speak about any negative side effects. You know, we've done a whole episode with Dr. Kirsty Seawood on breast implant illness. And like you just said, Laura, you want to see more of like the after effects of what these surgeries can actually create. What actually goes into the recovery? What are some of the bad side effects of having surgery like this to achieve a certain look? Well, I think it's particularly problematic when we get into paid collaboration world, where you're not actually allowed to talk about those negative side effects, because you might get sued from the company that have paid you to put an implant inside of your body.
Well, when you're getting paid for something, a bias is instantly created. And I know, like, there's been a lot of discussion around this specific example with Meghan Trainor. And I think it's because, well, it's twofold. One, because it is a very specific type of promotion. So it is for a company called Motiva USA, which is like their breast implant. It's the actual silicone implant. It's not a surgical institute. It's not a specific surgeon. It is the specific product, which then means that patients walk into a clinic and say, I want this product, which is something that should be prescribed by the healthcare professional. So I think like that's one great area. But the second part of this is that I think so many people originally loved Meghan Trainor because of everything that she stood for in this whole body inclusivity space. It just shows that there is this incredible pressure on women who are celebrities to continuously reinvent themselves. I think for anyone who watched the Taylor Swift documentary a bazillion years ago, she talked about how there is this constant need to reinvent the person that you are, to stay interesting in media, to stay forward facing, to be able to continue to commercialize yourself. And that's exactly what she's done. Yes, she took it a step further because she really commercialized herself, but also she's gone through this kind of like reinvention Meghan Trainor has. Like, she's spoken openly about being on Ozempic. She's obviously spoken openly now about having her breast done. And so the person that she was, that we all know her for from 15 years ago, is a reinvented version now. And there is a part of that I like really think is admirable that she's so open about it. But I also agree. I think that there are a lot of problems when we go down the path of normalizing plastic surgery so much that it's not normalized. It is absolutely fundamentally promoted by a paid promotion. I guess for me, and I really don't know what the antidote to all of this is, because it's evident that plastic surgery is here to stay. It's evident that it has become so accessible and so normal. But I think it's really important to also know that not all plastic surgery is built the same. Not all surgeons have the same expertise, experience, qualifications and skills. The level of accessibility of people flying to Turkey or flying to Thailand and getting things done overseas because they simply want the procedure, they want the outcome, but they're not necessarily fully cognizant of what is going to happen to them in the recovery process. And I think for a lot of the TikToks that I've seen or people that I've spoken to who have been through major plastic surgery, a lot of them have spoken about how the recovery was way harder than they ever expected it to be. And some people have likened having major plastic surgery to a near-death experience. That's how painful the following days were.
Kanye's mum died.
Yeah.
In elective plastic surgery. So I think it's particularly interesting that the Kardashians are quite transparent about it.
Well, there's also been like some very full-on lawsuits, class action lawsuits across Australia to show that there are some negligences that can occur in the plastic industry. And I guess for me, I wonder whether using celebrities as the benchmark for what is aspirational is healthy. And the reason for that is because they have the opportunity and the privilege of getting the best surgeons, of doing the most research, of accessing a level of plastic surgery that to the normie norms is simply not achievable or attainable. Whereas for us, we have to do our own research, find our own surgeons, and a lot of people who can't afford it are opting to go to places that maybe don't have as many restrictions or levels of care, i.e. going overseas to have these procedures done. I think that the pendulum has swung so far now in the opposite direction that we have become too desensitized to plastic surgery. I'm not saying it should be stigmatized. I'm not saying that we should shame people who get it done, but I definitely don't think it should be an expectation. And it's, I think, liberating the more that we see women who are quote unquote aging gracefully in media, because it gives people the ability to choose your own ending, I guess, in terms of this really immense beauty culture and beauty standards that we all seem to have to live by.
Yeah, I don't even know where I land on this myself. I think I can see everyone's perspective here. I can see people's perspective where they're like, we should not be talking about this at all, because the more we talk about it, the more it normalizes it, the more it impacts young, impressionable minds to thinking that they need certain things, they need certain procedures to be beautiful. And that's a criticism that we have even received. And I understand where people are coming from. Like, there was a time on this podcast where I quite naively, and yes, this is something I probably regret saying, I kind of likened, Botox or like a cosmetic injectable to being not that different from getting your hair dyed. And boy, oh boy, did I get some feedback about that. Where I was oversimplifying it was the fact that there are complications that can arise from injectables. There's not that many complications that can arise from colouring your hair. Like, maybe you'll get a bad hair colour, maybe it will burn, maybe it will split.
But I think the interesting thing of that, Keeshia, is your own bias in terms of how you had become desensitized to something that you did. This is the thing, right? We are able to make validations or excuses for the choices that we make. And I don't want to say this in terms of shaming anyone who chooses to get any injectables or surgery or whatever. Like, we've been very open. I've spoken about every single thing I've ever had done to my face. Some things I regretted, some things I fucking love and continue to do. And as soon as I've pushed this baby out, I will go and get my profiler. But I do take issue with, and I think it's a very common statement that a lot of people make, and we've probably made it on this podcast before as well, is that when people say, I don't have any issue when people go and get surgeries or plastic surgeries to change something that they don't like about themselves to make themselves more confident. On one hand, I don't have an issue with that. But on the other hand, I do have an issue with that. And the reason for that is because I ask the question, why do you not feel confident in yourself? Why are you not happy with that thing that you want to get changed? That is completely subjective, that is completely aesthetic looking. And if the answer to that is because it doesn't match up to society's expectations of beauty, then I say that's a really fucked thing, because you have an insecurity that's being created in you because you don't look the way that you have been told from all the sources and all the input that is the way that you should look. So ultimately, I'm like, fix the source, don't fix yourself. And I don't think that that fixes the problem. And so I challenge that statement now when it's like, well, I don't care if people go and get something done if it makes them feel better about themselves.
Do you think that we're able to fix the source though? Like, and I'm truly asking this because I don't know whether the pressure that we're all under to conform to beauty standards, I don't know if I have it in me to psychologically fight that. I don't know if I have it in me to fix the body image issues that have been conditioned into me for 30 years. I completely see where you're coming from and I wholeheartedly agree with it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to escape it and get to a point where I kind of accept myself. And so it raises a question in me where I'm like, yes, I do want transparency because I don't want people lying about what they've done to achieve certain things. But does that then just further perpetuate what I feel I need to do? And do the goalposts keep on shifting? You know, I've had filler, I've had Botox. Now that I'm seeing people get these facelifts that make them look 40 years younger, what's going to be next? Like, what am I going to want next? When am I actually going to reach a point where I look at my face in the mirror and I go, yeah, I'm happy with this. This is good.
I agree, but I think that that's the crystal ball. I guess that's kind of like takes us full circle in terms of what we wanted to talk about, because the reality is we are receiving more transparency now, but is it enough transparency, or is it the kind of transparency that is actually helpful? I even think of people on a smaller scale like Skye Wheatley documenting that she had the cat eye surgery recently. We also have people like Indy Clinton who had a rhinoplasty recently document that as well. And I think for so long we've been demanding transparency. But now that we're receiving transparency, we're realizing that actually it isn't the antidote that we've all wanted for so long. And you can see that from the backlash that both of these Australian women received. Indy Clinton has received so much backlash around her having this rhinoplasty and talking about it openly. People commenting on the fact that they liked the way she looked better before rather than now. It's been a really negative spiral across her social media. Also, on the flip side of that, the same thing happened with Skye Wheatley when she was documenting it. So I do think it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I don't think that there is a solution to here, but it's interesting to try and unpack the two realities that surround plastic surgery.